Our first speaker is Adriana via Baird with the Center for Children and Families at UTD. In her role, she works with parents and children to promote the child's socio-emotional, physical, language, and cognitive development. Today, she will be speaking on the growing brain and how to nurture your child's full potential. Adrian, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you this morning. Can you guys hear me? Okay, so thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be participating of this great event. And yes, I work for the Center for Children and Families at UT Dallas, and one of my passions is to serve children and families. We'll be talking about one of my favorite topics. So let me see if I can share the screen here. Okay, so today we'll be talking about the growing brain and ways in which we can nurture the brain. So I want to make this presentation a little bit interactive. So I'm going to be asking you to participate via chat, sending me your comments and questions. So the first thing is, let's think about the brain. I want to know, what do you know about the brain? So feel free to enter your comments. Okay, the brain is an engine, yes. Connections happen through the relationships, perfect, yes. So the brain is the most important organ because the brain controls everything. It controls all the functions. So I like to call it like it's the boss of everything. So it controls our voluntary functions, like when we're thinking, when we are using our memory, when we're walking, when we're doing things intentionally, our brain is controlling those processes, but also controls our involuntary processes. So, for example, we're all breathing right now and we're not thinking about what we're doing. We're just breathing. This morning, I'm sure many of you had a good breakfast. So our brain is the one sending the signals to our digestive system to process everything we ate. And we're not thinking about it. So the brain controls that process and even reflexes. So think of your babies and all of the things they do that are reflexes. Their brain is controlling those processes too. Okay, now let's talk about brain development. If we want to talk about how to foster child development, brain development, it is important to understand how the brain works. So the brain starts growing before birth, right? And the brain development depends on different things. The nutrition it receives, the exposure to toxins, and the environment. So in other words, everything that is happening before a child is born, once it's born, counts to help foster the brain development. To talk about brain development, I also like to talk about different ideas, myths, and facts regarding the brain. So the first one is, we tend to think that when the child is born, his brain is completely developed. So the fact is, the majority of the cells in a young brain are formed when the child is born, but those cells, those are neurons. What is a neuron? A neuron is a cell that has the ability to give and receive information. So when a child is born, all of those cells, billions of cells are there ready to connect. But it is to our experiences that those connections happen. So when a child is born, only 25% of his brain has the weight of an adult brain. By 2 years old, your child's brain is it weighs 75% of what an adult brain weighs. And by 5 years old, it will be 90% developed, right? So it is very important to think that, excuse me, that when a child is born, it's like that, there are many things still happening that can help that child's brain develop. Number second myth is the brain's development depends entirely on the genes with which we're born. So, okay, I have everything depends on biology. But what research shows is that only 30 to 60% depends on that biology part, but 40 to 70% of the brain development is based on the interactions with the environment. So what I'm saying in simple words is like everything we do matters. And with those interactions, when we talk about interactions, what I want you to think is you as a parent have an important role in the development of your child's brain. Exactly, have nature and have nurture. Excellent. Okay, number 3 myth is talking to babies is not important because they can't understand what we are saying. So raise your hand or send me a comment if you have heard this before. Yes, so the brain is constantly growing. The brain is a muscle. Have you heard this before, that if you talk to your child when he is a baby or she is a baby, they don't understand, they're just too little, they're not learning anything? How many of you have heard that before? Yes, so everything in my Play With Me program, I forgot to tell you this at the beginning, I work with children 0 to 3 and their parents in one of our outreach programs at the Center for Children and Families. This program is called Play With Me. So parents come once a week to have a playful learning interaction with their child. And one of the things that I noticed in our program is parents with newborns, when they call to enroll for the program or when they come for the program, they tend to think, you know, my baby is too little, maybe I should wait for when he's older to come to the program, because when he's older, he's going to learn more. So what I always emphasize, like, the fact that your child is not responding with you with words doesn't mean that your child is not learning anything. The child is gaining different things from the environment, and newborns are responding to you too, but in different ways. They give you different cues and they let you know with everything they do, whether or not they like the interaction, whether they're uncomfortable, what they need, and those things. So just think that the first years of your child are very essential to build the foundation for learning. I want you to think of the brain like the brain is like a house. Before you build a house, you have to make sure the foundation is very strong. So everything that is happening with a newborn matters, and we're helping them to build that foundation for a strong brain. So talking to your young baby is very important. Describing what is happening in the environment is very important. And I also want you to think of considering that baby not just is a baby, is little, and he doesn't respond to the environment. That Baby is a person, and everything you do with your child, whether you're changing a diaper, you're feeding your baby, your newborn baby, it is important for you to tell your baby what is happening, that you're touching their body, that you're changing a diaper. Everything that you're doing is helping that brain develop. He's receiving information, is like a sponge absorbing everything. Okay, number 4 myth is children only develop if they play with educational toys and specific toys. So I want you to tell me, what do you think is what children need the most? Expensive toys or experiences? Experiences. So now I want you to, I don't know if participants can open their mics or not. I want you to tell me of all of the things that you do, parents, around the house with your children every day. Think of all of the daily experiences. What are the things that you do with your children on a daily basis? Things like sorting laundry is an experience that helps the brain, eating, playing, bath time, preparing meals, getting dressed, playing with them, talking to them, reading to them, coloring. All of those experiences are helping your children's brains. They don't need to play with expensive toys. What they need you is loving, care, and new experiences. And if you notice in the picture I have here, we have a child and a parent playing that with something that I'm sure you guys have around the house. Sometimes we worry about buying expensive toys for our children, and what happens is they're having more fun and they're more entertained with a box, an empty container, and objects from the environment. It could be a brush or any other thing. They find ways to interact with those things. And why that happens? Because children are learning through senses. They want to explore everything, and when they're touching, when they're feeling, when they're tasting, when they're hearing, when they're doing different things, the brain is receiving information, and those connections, those neurons are receiving information and sending information. Okay, so now let's think about your child's first 3 years of life, right? Can you tell me what happened during those first weeks of life? Think of when you brought your baby home from the hospital, right? And think of all of those clothes and all of those baby outfits and everything that you have, those cute outfits that you were thinking you were going to dress your baby with. What happened to all of those? What happened to all of those cute outfits that you bought? Were you able to use all of them? Nope, right? And why not? Because you couldn't use any of those things because the baby grows really fast. So in the outside, they're growing really fast, and from 1 week to another one, you cannot let them wear all of the things that you had planned because they outgrow things really fast. So that's what happens out on the outside. Imagining what is happening in the inside of the brain. This is the organ that is very important and is not completely developed when they're born. So the brain keeps changing rapidly during the first years of life. So what you see with their body is also happening inside the brain. That is changing rapidly, and the foundation for future learning and for the future experiences is happening during the first 3 years of life. That's why we like to call it a critical period. And think of the brain. I saw one of the comments was like, the brain is like a muscle, right? if we go to the gym, we have strong muscles and we are like building our muscles. If we don't go to the gym, what happened to our muscles? Our muscles are still there, but they're not developed. You don't see them as strong. So the same thing happens with the brain. The more experiences our child has, the more opportunities we're giving that brain to form different connections. An example I can give you is, let's say these days where many of us are thinking of exposing our children to a new language, a second language. So let's say you have the opportunity to expose your child to a different language. I'm gonna pick Spanish because that's the one I speak, right? So you start speaking to your child in Spanish every time, right? Or let's say you go even more extreme. You said, I want my child to be exposed to be immersed in the Spanish language. So you move to Colombia and you start speaking Spanish to your child and he stops hearing English. Let's say your child is 2 years old. What is going to happen with that those connections for language development in the brain of your child? The more you speak Spanish, the more you're exposed to the language, the stronger those connections are, and your child starts acquiring a lot of vocabulary in Spanish. And while you're there in Colombia, you stop using English because you want your child to learn only Spanish. So what is going to happen? Those brain connections for the English language, they're still going to be there, but they're not going to be as strong. So your child's vocabulary in Spanish is going to increase, and in English, he's going to probably not develop at the same pace because you're not speaking the language. So if you don't use it, you lose it. So that happens with your child's brain. And now let's talk about your child's brain. We have been saying that the environment is very important. The environment really counts. So everything that you told me that you do counts. And another thing that counts is the level of stress that your child is exposed to in the environment. I don't want to pretend that that they're like environments free of stress. Stress is present in our lives, and there are different types of stress. So positive stress, tolerable stress, and toxic stress. Think of positive stress as the opportunity for your child to be challenged and learn new skills. So it is a mild kind of stress, increases our body functions, activates our alert system, but not in a way that is like threatening, right? And this type of stress is buffered by the support of by the loving care and support of parents or caregivers. And it doesn't have any harmful effects on the child's brain development. So what would be an example of a positive stress experience? And if you want to comment on the chat and tell me what would be an example of a positive stress experience. Okay, meeting new people. It could be a little bit stressful at first. You're wondering, you're like learning, exploring the person, and you're probably like sweating a little bit and everything, but it's not damaging to you. So think of your child when your child is playing with a puzzle, when he's doing playing with a toy in a way that he has not played before, and he's trying to connect the pieces or do something that's a little bit of stress. Or think of when you have to prepare for an important event. Like today, I was trying to play with the technology and everything. It was stressful to me, but not at a level that was harmful to me, right? The second type of stress will be tolerable stress. It's more serious than the positive stress, than the other one. It's more serious, but it's temporary. It activates our body's alert systems to a greater degree, but with the care and support of an environment, it doesn't cause any problems, and the brain and our organs recover quickly from that stress. So I want you to think of when you leave your child, you take your child to school for the first time. And I know this is stressful for us parents to take our child for the first time to daycare, or not even daycare. Think of the first time you left your child with a nanny or a different person than you. So you're stressed, you're a little bit scared. And if your child is not a baby, he also might be scared because it's new people. But the way this caregiver responds to you and to your child helps you calm down, right? So you feel like, okay, I went to see the nanny, but I see that she's very sweet. The environment looks very inviting for my child, so I feel better. And then you call later and, oh no, your child cried for a little bit, but now he's fine. And this person also sends you pictures throughout the day to tell you how your child is doing. So you calm down, right? Your stress level is not dysfunctional, to put it in different words. And another type of stress is the toxic stress. This is a stress that is very prolonged, activates all of the body's stress responses. And in this type of environments, one of the things that is absent is the support, the predictable support from caregivers. So it's not a protective environment. And this could cause damaging effects, and it could alter the child's development. It could prevent child from even developing certain abilities and even affects them in a physical way. So toxic stress is a more extreme situation. I want you to think of situations where children's basic needs are not covered, or there is negligence and abuse. So this will be an extreme environment. So what happens with this part? Like, our body releases a substance called cortisol. So this substance, when it's released in small amounts, like in positive stress, we get stressed out about something new, it helps us, like, it activates our responses, but to take action and to do things. So learning happens. When we are producing higher levels of stress, and it's our body, our brain is producing stress cortisol at higher levels. So that's when even our health suffers. Our immune system can be compromised and illnesses can happen. And this is true for children and adults. But think of that developing brain is even more critical, that we take care of the environment, because that we provide an environment that is safe and is predictable for the child, because high levels of stress will really hinder that developing brain. Okay, now let's think of what are some of the things that we can do or that we are already doing to promote our child's brain potential. So number one thing for me is taking care of ourselves. So I want to ask you, how many of you parents slept 7 hours last night? And I want you to tell me, I did in the chat, or I didn't. I didn't. Okay. No. Okay, I want as many of you to answer this question. As many as possible. Yo no. Sí, señora Marisela, no pude dormir. Okay, so I know all of us really care for the development of our children. We want them to be healthy. We want them to be happy. But if we're not healthy and if we're not happy, how are we going to be able to do this for our children? So that's number one thing. From now on, You guys are a priority. We have to make sure we're sleeping well, we're eating well, we're taking breaks, and we're doing things to take care of ourselves. If we take care of ourselves, we're going to be able to take good care of our children. We cannot give what we don't have. When I ask these questions, in the Play With Me program, what I usually get is a lot of laughs from parents. Like it is almost like we're thinking that it is a joke to give ourselves priority. So my invitation is to be the first person you take care of, so you can have what your child needs. So if you're good, you'll be able to be a more sensitive parent to respond to your child in a more opportune and timely manner. Think of this. If you didn't eat breakfast and you didn't sleep a good night's sleep and your child is throwing a temper tantrum, it's going to be harder for you to be that parent that is quiet, that is not quiet, but that is calm and can model for your child a good way to deal with this regulation. Because when your child is experiencing a temper tantrum, what is happening is that brain is in a state of dysregulation. En un estado de descontrol en español. When that happens, we want to model for them how to calm themselves, and just our presence can help our children to be calm at certain times. So number one priority, take care of yourself. Number two, nurture the relationship with your child. So what are some of the things that we can do to nurture that relationship? And if you want to comment on that. How can we nurture our relationship with our children? Oh, I love this one. Put down your phone and play. Spend time talking, boundaries, lots of hugs. So these are the things that I know you're already doing. It is very important. This is one thing that I tell the parents in our Play With Me program. The relationship, the way you connect with your child is a protected factor for life. Because of the way you respond to your child learns the world is a safe environment or is a place that attacks me, and I have to protect myself from that environment. So it's very important. All of the things that you do with your child count. In our program, we promote something that we call be a ready parent. What is being a ready parent? Number one, read and respond to your child's cues. So if you see your child crying, if you see your child uncomfortable, I know you already do these things, but be attentive of those needs. Sometimes we have parents that experience depression and have other issues, and it's really hard for them to promptly respond to their child's needs. Ready, respond. The second thing is engage. I tell the parents, engage is like a mirror. Your child is excited about a new toy. He comes and tells you, Mom, look what I did. And your response is like, yeah. You're not really engaging. So when your child comes to you, think of you as the mirror where your child goes too often to see his reflection. So if your child match your child's affect, not only the positive affect, but those times when your child is experiencing challenges or is sad. So label your child's emotions, acknowledge what your child feels. And that's the other thing for ready parents, acknowledge your child experience. An example I can give you is when your child is playing with something and it breaks. Our first reaction is to fix what happened or to dismiss our child's emotions. Don't worry, I'll fix it. I'll give you another one. No, acknowledge your child experience. I see you're very frustrated. Your toy is not working the way you want it, all right? Okay, acknowledge your child experience. Then the next one is develop. use every opportunity that you have to describe things in the environment, to give your child to practice and develop different skills. Don't jump to do things for your child right away. Give them the opportunity to try out first, and then you're there to support and help if needed. Another important thing is yield to your child. That means we as parents tend to have our adult agenda. It is important to let our child let us know what is his agenda. When it comes to learning, children learn faster and easier when they do things that are interesting to them. This is something that I tell the parents I work with often. If you want to teach colors, if you want to teach numbers, if you want to teach different skills, don't have an agenda and just say, okay, time to read and learn colors. No, wait and see every opportunity that you have to label those, to talk about what that idea that you want your child to learn. Let's say you want your child to learn about colors. So talk about his clothes. Oh, it's blue, like your ball. So one thing also is to connect what your child sees in the environment or new concepts with your child's real life experiences. Oh, this dog is red. This dog is red, like Clifford, just like your shirt, something like that, right? Okay, another important thing to promote your child's brain potential is offer a healthy nutrition. I don't think I have to worry about this one because parents are very good at making your children eat well. And I will say this is also like a thermometer that all of us mothers use to sometimes measure how good we are. Is he eating everything I'm giving him? Oh, I'm so good. He's not eating everything I'm giving him. Oh, maybe I'm not doing enough. And it is a struggle for us to sometimes feed our children. So, but when it comes to feeding our children, I want you to think in terms of, for young children, 0 to 3, think of your children's nutrition in terms of a week. Instead of thinking of what they did daily, think of what they eat throughout the week. If you're always offering healthy choices, they're going to end up eating all of the things they need. Let's say one day they're very interested in fruit. The next day they want to eat more protein. That's fine. If within a week they eat something from each age, from each group of food, they have good nutrition. And if you can breastfeed, I always tell you and encourage you, if you can breastfeed, that's the best nutrition for the brain. It's custom made for the brain. And if you cannot breastfeed for any reason, also don't feel guilty because formula is made with the ingredients that are appropriate for your child's brain development. Another thing that is important is to establish routines that are consistent. An environment that is predictable leads to security, to safety, and safety leads to security. So our children love familiarity and they feel safe when they know what is happening. So it is very important that we work on those routines. Another thing to do, and I know you're doing, to promote your child's brain development is to create and find opportunities for reading, for playing, for interacting, for doing new things. Another thing you can do to promote your child's brain development is ask for help. Some of us sometimes are afraid to ask for help, or we want to do it everything on our own. It is very difficult to take care of all of the needs our families have if we don't ask for help. Ask for help is also connected to number one way to promote your child's potential. To number one, take care of yourself. We cannot do everything ourselves. Sometimes we need the help of a friend. We need the help of an agency in the community to provide therapeutic services for our children. So it is important to ask for help and don't feel guilty for it. We need others. And number 7, repeat. Keep repeating all of the good things that you do, because brain learning happens through repetition. So the more we repeat an experience that is good for the brain, the stronger the connection it is in our child's brain. Okay, I have one video to summarize this presentation, and this video will tell you about the ways in which parents can nurture child full potential. What I love about this video, and you probably have, some of you have probably seen it, is the speaker is a 7-year-old. So we're learning about nurturing the full potential of our children from an expert, a child. And let me see if you can hear it. Can you hear?
No, we can't hear. Did you do share sound on the bottom of it when you said share screen?
Okay, let me stop and, okay, let me stop sharing and
Yeah, at the bottom of the screen, it should say the little button that says share sound.
yes, I got it. Okay, it should work now. Working? She said it all. And as you can see, simple is more in this situation, like everything counts. So if you have any questions, this will be our opportunity to answer those questions.
The first question that I've got, Adriana, is the name of the TED Talk. What is the name of this TED Talk?
Is as the youngest 7-year-old, the youngest TED Talk speaker is how I found it. The youngest 7-year-old, the youngest TED Talk speaker is how I found it. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact name.
The next question is, how do I get a toddler to stop crying constantly?
Okay, so before I answer that question, I would like to know more about the child's needs, because if a child is crying, it's because something is happening. So when it comes to these kind of behaviors, I think more on preventing the behavior. So what is happening before my child starts crying? I will also think of what is my child's ability to communicate. What I have seen in my program is when children are crying constantly and throwing temper tantrums often is because they are not able to communicate their needs. So one recommendation for parents in those situations is screen for language. And also, if language is not an issue, always acknowledge the child experience. What is happening? If my child is just frustrated, label that emotion. Oh, Maria, I know you're very frustrated, or you're happy. Always label the child emotion. Even when the child is not verbal, if we label the emotion and they see that we get them, they tend to calm and stop crying. But very important to me is to know what is happening before the child starts crying and try to prevent those things from happening. That also tells me it could be a child that is more routine oriented. And if we're changing the routine without giving the child a warning, they tend to cry and they tend to resist changes and new activities. So important, if that is happening, to give your child at least 3 warnings when you are going to change an activity for this child. And I hope that answers.
Yeah, she says in here there's some fake cries when she doesn't get her way or want to go to school.
Ah, okay. So in this case, it's more like a seeking attention behavior. So in this case, again, acknowledge the child experience. I know you don't really want to go to school. And one of the strategies that I use in those cases is to give the child what he wants, but in a fantasy way. So how do I do that? Okay, I know you don't want to go you don't really want to go to the school. It would be really great if we could have a magic wand and disappear all of the school. So you acknowledge the child experience, you give the child in the fantasy what he wants. He doesn't want to go to the school, you give it in the fantasy, and if he's verbal or the child is verbal, he's gonna start telling you, oh yes, I don't want to go, and it would be good to disappear everything. And by the time he's expressing everything, the two of you are walking to the car and getting ready to go to school.
Okay, I've got one more question. And I'm assuming this is how to engage. So it's how does this apply to our kids that are on the spectrum that are hard to engage regarding like getting them to go back and forth with the peekaboo is what I'm assuming he's talking about.
Okay. So what I think is, regardless of your child's developmental needs, all of us are experts in our children. So you know your child, you know what he responds well to. So find what your child likes and do more of those. So the way to engage is not always to come in with something new and very clever. It's just pay attention to your child. What are the things that he responds to in an easier way, and do more of those.
And then I've got one other one over here in the other section. The term COVID baby is now often used with anxiety to new faces. What would be a good strategy to practice with high amounts of anxiety during outings?
Okay, so one strategy is to tell the child in advance what is going to happen. And depending on the age of the child, I will also have the parents practice with toys at home what is going to happen. Let's say we're going to the doctor's office, or we're going to a party, we're going to a new experience. We can rehearse what is going to happen at home to give the child like the big picture of what is going to happen. That typically helps them reduce the fear and anxiety. And when we are in the situation, also acknowledge, I know this is scary, I know this is new, I know this is different. I keep acknowledging the child and show them that you are supported, rather than stop that, don't do that anymore. I know that you know, for us parents, we get two different responses when we are in public dealing with difficult situations. So one response is we can get very harsh because we are afraid to be perceived like we're not the authority in front of the child, or we just kind of like ignore the child and let the child do whatever, because we also don't want to create a scene in the middle of the supermarket or anywhere we are. So I also recommend you to always have like a tunnel vision in those moments. What matters is you and your child and what that learning experience can be for the two of you.
Well, that's all we got. So I want to thank you so much, Adriana. We really appreciate you being a part of this event. And we know that everyone benefited greatly. I've got lots of thank you, great information there in the chat. And so I just want to thank you so much. Our next session is about encouraging independence and increasing language skills during bath time and while getting dressed. And it starts at 11. So we hope to see you back here at the same time. The link is the same. So you can share your link with family and friends.
Okay, so before everyone goes, I just want to tell you one last thing. I want to talk about some resources for you. So think of you as the first and more important resource for your child. Second, your community, agencies, schools, libraries, they're here to support all of you. Number 3, I want to include a commercial for our Center for Children and Families. I'm leaving you there the link to our site. We are in the process of recruiting new families for our Play With Me program that starts in September. So if you're interested, you can go to our website and find out more information about the program and what we do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You guys have a great day. Thank you again, Adriana.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.